Hello, I'm Brian Burton, and I spend all of my working life either working for Fenners or working with the Fenner brand. I'd like to show you a somewhat personalised history of the Fenner company. J.H. Fenner and Company Limited was founded by Joseph Henry I in 1861 in premises on the upper storey of number 21 Bishop Lane in the Old Town area of Kingston upon Hull. The upper storey gave rise to the title to the centenary book published in 1961, 21.5 Bishop Lane. The business was carried into the 20th century by other members of the Fenner family, including Joseph Henry Fenner II. But Sidney Beetham Hainsworth, having joined the company in 1921, became the leading figure who saw the company go public in 1937 and was elected life president on his retirement in 1974. The company outgrew the Old Town facilities and built a new factory in the district of Marfleet on the eastern boundary of Hull in the early 20th century. This factory was destroyed by bombing in May 1941, and wartime production was moved to a subsidiary company at Cleckheaton in West Yorkshire. Rebuilding at Marfleet started in 1947, and on the right is a picture of the factories in 1959, which include a weaving shed, more of which will be mentioned later. Over 1,200 people were employed at this point. The original Fenner products were made of leather for use with horses, that is reins, saddles, etc. But as leather was also being used for industrial transmission belting, this soon became a major product. Drive belting was also made of woven textiles, and this technology was added during the 19th century, along with the means of weaving seamless textile hose, typically for firefighting. Here we see a Marshall's threshing machine, powered by a steam traction engine via a large Fenner leather belt. People familiar with Hull district will recognise Skidby Mill, where the yawing mechanism that allows the fantail to align the sails with the wind is driven by a Fenner woven cotton belt dipped in latex for improved grip on the flat pulleys. These are classic examples of power transmission, connecting a power source such as an engine, electric motor or turbine to machinery that ultimately does some specific work. Modern examples range in scale from computer hard drives, where a miniature electric motor drives a data storage disk via a small belt resembling an elastic band, to huge electric motors or diesel engines driving the crushers that turn quarried rock into the chippings used for road surfaces. Here is the Fenner factory as I remember joining the company as a student apprentice in 1965. By this time there was a sizable fleet of transport vehicles to deliver products from factory to customers, but the lower right picture shows a van from one of the growing network of stock and sales branches being established throughout the UK. This one happens to be from the London branch. The size of the UK sales organisation can be judged from this picture of the senior sales force gathered with the company directors, and that's Sidney Hainsworth in the front row centre, at a sales conference in early 1971. I was there in technical support in my first year of work after graduation from apprenticeship and training, and that's me on the top right. In the mid-70s, Fenner acquired the Dick Bearing Company, based in Blackburn, Lancashire, and formed Fenner Sales and Service to take products from the factories and fulfill all the stock, sales and marketing functions in the UK. These pictures are taken from a local Yellow Pages. But following some regrouping after World War II, Sidney Hainsworth led the company in a comprehensive global expansion. Here are some of the facilities set up in the 50s and 60s, with a view of some of my own later involvement with them. India was something of a protected market in those days, so Fenner set up factories to manufacture most of the product range at Madurai in the Tamil Nadu region. I enjoyed a fine welcome there in 2009, with special attention paid to my personal hygiene. Australia was a huge potential market, particularly in the mining industry, and Fenner set up there in 1959. You may just see the name Dodge on the sign at the entrance. This reflects the fact that Sidney Hainsworth had negotiated design, manufacture, sales and marketing rights for a range of power transmission products from the Dodge Manufacturing Company in the USA, more of which later. I went to Fenner Australia in 2006 and helped out on our stand at the Queensland Mining Exhibition. Continuing the theme of expansion in Commonwealth countries, Fenner set up in South Africa in 1961. The company later became part of Bearingman Group around the millennium, but their MD took pride in showing me the original articles of incorporation when I visited in 2008. In continental Europe, Fenner was centred on a sales and manufacturing complex at Nettetal Breyel in Germany. I visited many times, but if you went on Carnival Day, then according to custom, if you wore eine Krawatte to the office, it would be summarily schnitten. The black and white group picture taken from our group magazine, the V-Belt Journal, shows Sidney Hainsworth Centre, but to his right is Peter Barker, who happened to be Sidney Hainsworth's son-in-law and was the Fenner International Division Sales Director at the time. Peter Barker went on to become Group Chief Executive of the company after Sidney Hainsworth's retirement. As well as our own factories and sales outlets, there was also a network of distributors appointed, both in the UK and overseas. These pictures are from April in Portugal, April being the acronym for the Auto Progresso Industrial Company, distributor of Fenner products in Portugal to this day. Now I'd like to show some of the products that were designed, developed and manufactured by Fenner in the latter half of the 20th century, with a few examples of how they were applied and an accent on the somewhat underappreciated technology that was involved. During this period, Fenner's was probably best known for V-belt drives, and we were unique in the world for leadership in the technology of both pulleys from metallic materials and V-belts from polymer textile composite materials. Production of both had started just before World War II at Marfleet. Fenner V-belt drives were used to impart spin to the bouncing bombs used in the World War II dam busters raid. They were also used to rotate the radar scanners at the Cold War early warning system at Fylingdales in North Yorkshire. The pictures here are from a 1960s copy of the V-Belt Journal. Here's a much larger V-belt drive used as main propulsion in a dredger built in London for a Middle Eastern customer. This V-Belt Journal article was by Chief Engineer Jim Mitchell and indicates the considerable technology involved in starting with rubber, string and cast iron and finishing with the ability to transmit megawatt powers in machinery. One of the Dodge products developed by Fenner was their torque arm speed reducer gearbox shown in the left-hand picture. The right-hand picture shows the latest incarnation, known as the Fenner shaft-mounted speed reducer, dramatically more powerful and efficient than the original. The range of SMSRs was between 200mm and 1.4 meters in height, and application ranged from small conveyors to giant dockside container cranes. Fenner also took the Dodge Paraflex coupling design and improved it considerably to become the Fennerflex coupling. The flexible part of the coupling resembles a car tyre, which demonstrates again the Fenner expertise of making effective products with both metallic and polymer textile components. Such components need fixing to machine shafts, and here the hugely successful Fenner taper lock bush was evolved from an original Dodge design invented by a Yorkshireman while working for Dodge in the immediate post-World War II years. Ocean liner hulls are by no means totally rigid, so flexible coupling like Fennerflex was the ideal medium for connecting side thrust propellers to their drive motors in the P&O liner Oriana, overcoming any misalignment caused by hull flexure and enabling the vessel to maneuver sideways without the need for tugs. A prestigious new research centre was opened in 1961 to coincide with the centenary of the founding of the Fenner Company. It was called the Hainsworth Research Centre and was known as the HRC. I spent much of the 70s working there as a senior development engineer. The HRC name was given to a new shaft coupling developed there in the 1970s. This was once again a flexible coupling and used both metal and polymeric components. On the left is my Lifetime Achievement Trophy, presented to me on retirement on the last day of February in 2012, which just happened to be a leap year, so I had to work an extra day. Here's a spread from the March 1964 V-Belt Journal showing engine mounts and rubber bumper inserts on the then new MGB sports car. The components were made in the moulded rubber products division of the Marfleet factory, known locally as MRP. The photos show the products being examined at the MG car factory by Sir Leonard Hutton, the famous cricketer, who was a director of Fenner at the time. And, of course, cricket was the passion of Sidney Hainsworth, who used to organise a Fenner Trophy meeting at Scarborough each year, where his team, often including overseas test cricketers, would play a Yorkshire team for the trophy. Shown with Sidney Hainsworth in the black and white picture is Gordon Hayhurst, who was MD of J.H. Fenner Power Transmission Limited in the 60s and 70s. Bostock and Branley, based in Staley Bridge near Manchester, became the large gear division of Fenner in the late 1960s. This picture shows a marine propulsion gear unit. Chief Engineer Jim Mitchell designed a range of worm gear speed reduction gearboxes in the early 1960s. This was a popular style of gearing where high reduction ratios were required in, for example, heavy process machinery. The Hainsworth design was unique at the time for its casing design, allowing it to be easily mounted within machinery in any of a dozen different configurations. The words bottom right indicate the level of technology inherent in such gears, at which Fenner excelled. Process machinery often needs to work at different speeds. As electric motors tend to rotate at a fixed speed related to the frequency of AC current supply, one old way of varying machine speed was by using variable diameter pulleys, as illustrated in the blue graphic, and Fenner made a range of industrial variable speed belt drive systems. However, the advent of modern electronics enabled Fenner to develop their range of speed ranger controls for electric motors. The words bottom right summarise the technology and again illustrate where Fenner were leaders in the 1960s and 70s. Here's something a little different from power transmission. In 1956, Fenner acquired manufacture and marketing rights for the Rapistan range of materials handling conveyors from the US company Rapid Standard Corporation. The manufacturer's equipment company, known locally as MEC, was set up in brand new premises in Hull to make these conveyors, typically for warehousing and airport baggage handling applications. And here is a diversification of great future significance. In the early post-war years, Fenner upscaled their expertise in woven textile belting to create heavy-duty conveyor belting for mining and quarrying industries. A disastrous accident at Cresswell Colliery in Derbyshire in 1950 cost many lives due to a conveyor belt catching fire and literally conveying the fire down the full length of an underground coal seam. Fenner worked with the National Coal Board to develop a new kind of conveyor belting that had effective fire-retarding properties, as well as being anti-static to avoid frictional static electricity igniting explosive gases that can occur in coal mines. In 1952, Fennerplast was born. The carcass of the belting was solid woven rather than laminated. It was produced initially in the weaving shed at Marfleet, mentioned earlier. Back to the company itself. 1974 saw the structure reorganised on a divisional basis, the main divisions being power transmission, conveyor belting, known as Fennerplast, fluid sealing, comprising the pioneer Western Seal Company, but enlarged by further global acquisitions in the 2000s. The material handling division, which was the MEC company, and the international division, taking in all of the overseas manufacturing and sales operations. Peter Barker was Group Chief Executive. Here we summarise developments during the last 3 decades of the 20th century, culminating in 2 fundamental changes. Firstly, the power transmission division was disposed of in 1998, and the Fenner brand name for power transmission products was sub-licensed to a new company called FPT, like Fenner Power Transmission, but without using Fenner as part of the company name. This was based in Blackburn at the old Fenner Sales and Services premises for the marketing and sale of Fenner brand power transmission products. In 2002, FPT was merged with a major UK competitor called Wyco, based in the West Midlands. In 2006, the bank who had funded both FPT and Wyco brokered the sale of Wyco to a Dutch private venture capital company called Eriks. I followed the Fenner brand through these developments and retired from the Eriks company in 2012. Meanwhile, the Marfleet-based shaft-mounted speed reducer manufacturing facility was sold by Fenner plc to the Japanese company Sumitomo Drive Technologies, who retained premises on the Sutton Fields industrial estate in Hull. Secondly, developments shown on this slide include new Fennerplast factories in Hull, Scotland, India and China, and the acquisition of two major competitors in the heavy conveyor belting business, Scandura from the USA and Unipoly, who were a European Dunlop company. This established Fenner as the undisputed world leader in heavy conveyor belting. There were also other high polymer technology acquisitions during this period. After the Fenner company itself, my work involved the sourcing, marketing and technical support for Fenner brand power transmission products worldwide. This is a graphic from a marketing campaign we deployed at Eriks. Meanwhile, the Fennerplast division had become the world leader in heavy-duty conveyor belting for mining and quarrying industries. This summary of Fenner plc from 2004 to 2010 shows how further acquisitions reinforced the Fennerplast division and worked towards creation of an advanced engineered polymer products division with a significant presence in the medical equipment market. Hence, Fenner plc became a two-division company in the 2010s, Fenner Dunlop Conveyor Belting and Advanced Engineered Products. Then in 2018, Fenner became part of the Michelin group of companies and the company became known as Fenner Group Holdings Limited. Company headquarters are still based at Heselwood, just outside of Hull, and there is still a major Fennerplast factory at Marfleet. Now, to anyone suggesting that a 47-year working life involving the same company name was a bit boring and stick in the mud, I must say that I enjoyed pretty much all of it, and it had some significant highlights. But finally, after retirement, my wife now went on a cruise around the Caribbean, docked at St. John's in Antigua and set off to find a refreshing drink. My wife found the bar, but on the way we passed a piece of street art, an old sugarcane crushing machine set up on the corner of the main street, sporting a Fenner Hull pulley, which goes to show there's just no getting away from it. And that is all. Thank you for watching and listening.